So last week I met with a friend of mine who comes to the Construct, one of the meetups that I run in Dublin, and we were having some really interesting discussions around digital data and photography and memory. And something that really stuck with me was a question around how does digital technology actually affect our memory? And since I've actually moved to analog photography, I've noticed that I remember my photographs more. I remember the place, the time, like where I took it, what the scenario was, and it makes me cherish the image more. And it really made me think about what is really happening to everyone's memories, because everyone takes photographs, like so many photographs in their phone, and it goes straight into the iCloud or it goes into Google Photos, and it's just everyday moments and it's completely harmless. But apart from all the data and the usage of water that's running it, but it's an act of innocence, taking photographs of your food, taking photographs of your family, your friends. And the thing is that 70% of these images, they really mean nothing to people. They don't go back on them. The only way that they usually see them is when your phone delivers a notification that says remember this day, and you see like just a slideshow of random images, and maybe you remember that day and maybe you don't, but who will actually remember these images in 10 or 20 years? Will they actually remember the moment itself? From that, it really makes me think about our grandparents and our parents' generation, where if they were shooting analog or shooting film, because there was no such thing as digital, they would go through their photographs, they would get them processed, developed, printed. It would be almost like a ritual. Maybe they would take some photographs at a party, and every Saturday they would get their film developed at the local store, and there would be a tangible processed experience, and maybe they would showcase the images on a projector, or they would share the printed photographs with friends. And my question around that is their memory of that time actually more accurate than the memory that we have with our iPhone photos? Maybe that memory is more embedded in their brain or solidified in their brain because they're using analog and not digital. So a part of me also thinks that we're potentially wasting our lives endlessly documenting through our phone. So from my perspective, I think photography and memory have become much clearer for me since I started shooting only film. It seems that I notice a lot more around me, and I take my time when I'm taking the photographs. So I'm able to notice much more, and I'm much more in flow and have focus. And because I don't get the film developed straight away, I don't have a darkroom at home, I find that it's like a slow process. It's very intuitive. And for me, it's almost a spiritual thing. It feels very meditative, if that's a word, meditative, or feeling like meditation. And when I do look at these photographs later, I'm able to recall them better and recall what was going on in them, what was happening at that time. And I remember why I took them, which is really important because I can't do that with any of the iPhone images that I have. Of course, I'm able to take photographs of, like, for example, of my cat when she was a kitten on my iPhone, and I go back to those images. I'm going to remember that because it was a certain time of her life and my life. But it's the random images that are different. It's the random images of food out with friends or events or things like that. And when I was discussing this with Julian, I realized that what's actually important isn't the method of how we take the photograph and the tool, but it's more so about the craft of photography. Because I feel like when you're using an analog camera, you're trying to understand so many different things at one go. You want to understand the light, you want to understand composition, the settings, everything that goes along with it. And then you have to be super in tune and aware of your surroundings. And this puts you in like a focus or like a flow when you're photographing something, and even if it's just a mundane object or something small or simple. When you compare that to taking a photograph with an iPhone is just a click of a button. It's just a screen and you press a button. It's completely different because your attention is fully on something that you love when you take a photograph with the camera. And I believe that it maybe activates some kind of neurons in your brain or fires some kind of pathways, whatever that is, to help you increase your memory because you're in that focus and that flow. And you're learning while seeing. You're aware of your surroundings. And that's really important. And add to that the joy of actually documenting something that you want to see, that you desire to see. I think that that also will help memory rather than just using the phone. And that's the difference between iPhone photography and analog photography. With analog, there's a pursuit of like a great image, this image that we would like to capture, but it's done with the tactile nature of like an analog camera. And there's always a chance we're going to miss the shot. And the concept of actually documenting something in time and it might not work, that's quite risky, but it feels adventurous in my opinion. It feels like there's something worth doing. There's something worth capturing here. With iPhones or digital cameras, I find that it is purely accessible and convenient. It is just a box with a button and you get these overly processed images and they're perfect. Everything looks perfect in it. And I just don't think it's an accurate representation of real life. And this is another reason why I think that digital images might not embed in our memories as much as analog photography, because it's so convenient, it's so accessible. And we compare it to maybe like if you go for a McDonald's, right? McDonald's might be really nice or whatever, but it's quick, it's fast, accessible, it's easy. Are you going to remember that, or are you going to remember the home cooked meal from your granny, or where you went to like a Michelin star restaurant where you had to wait like an hour for like this custom made meal? It's completely different because of the craft of cooking and the time and the passion and the energy that you put into it. So with iPhones, you have this saturated image and that the photograph comes out as, it's almost too perfect to be real. And when something feels too easy, too automated, too perfect, I don't think our brains actually hold on to it the same way because it doesn't feel like real life. Now, some people would prefer that perfect image you get from the iPhone, but for me, I think life is all about the imperfections. And I think it's the importance of the craft and the process that is much more important than the end result. So that's why I prefer it. But maybe the question isn't about analog versus digital. Maybe it's actually about if we're present when we're documenting our own lives. Like, are we learning, seeing, experiencing, or are we just clicking a button and moving on? So that's all I really wanted to speak about for this week. If this resonates with you, next time you're out, maybe take one photo with intention. Think about the light, think about the composition, why you're taking it, and then see if you remember it maybe differently a week from now. If you guys enjoyed this, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.